All right. Hey, everybody. I am so excited about what I'm hoping is a new consistent series and show that I can bring to all of you. It's been a goal of mine for a long time to start something like this, and I'm finally starting with what I think is a very time appropriate interview about personal finances and raising your financial capacity. But first, I wanted to introduce you to the show and the series. I don't even know what to call it yet, but welcome to Endless Capacity. Endless capacity is my personal pursuit to constantly improve. I just believe that we're all operating at different levels of our own personal capacities and thresholds. And my passion is to not only improve my own, but also try to help others look to break through as individuals and grow as people. It's an endless battle with ourselves. And again, my goal is to document my habits, my strengths, my successes, my struggles, and my weaknesses, all in an effort to just raise our level of output while decreasing stress, because that is the true measure of increased capacity, is increased output over time while decreasing stress. So thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope I can continue to produce and create more of these. Thanks, everybody. All right, so we are going to start with our very first guest ever on the show. And it's a really cool guest because he's my brother, Nick Capello. So a little bit about Nick before we dive into the questions. So Nick is a financial consultant for Liebenthal Global Advisors. That means he covers personal clients as well as business accounts, spending the majority of his time planning for their current financial needs as well as their future wealth. In addition to trading and portfolio management, Nick researches each mutual fund used on his platform by sitting down with portfolio managers on a regular basis to get their opinion on the economy, which is going to be key for today's discussion. In addition to his day-to-day job and being my older brother, Nick's a former Division I and professional soccer player, as well as a competitive bodybuilder, and he won the Classic Physique title at the 2019 Metropolitans just last year. Nick likes to say he's a wealth asset manager by day and a bodybuilder by night. So please, everyone, welcome Nick to the show, and we're going to dive in. Nick, welcome, man.
Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here.
No, first off, thanks for doing this. This is really cool. And just for everyone that's watching, you and I were on the phone the other day just catching up, seeing how we're doing, how the family's doing. And we just started talking about finances.
Yep.
And I said to you, this would be really good to just go online and talk about, because from what I've heard and what I've talked about with my friends and colleagues and even old coworkers, no one really knows what's going on right now. So I figured, hey, let's just jump on a conference and let's record this and see what's going on. So I wanted to just dive right in and get your opinion on a few topics. Again, these are topics that I've heard. I'm by no means an expert or know what I'm listening to, but these are things that have come up a bunch of times. So we'll dive right in. If it's cool, I'll just kind of go through the list and we'll see your thoughts on a bunch of stuff that I think is happening right now in our economy. Cool. So the biggest number I keep hearing, Nick, is 30% down, 30% down. And it seems to be a number that's being called out in terms of like our portfolios, our 401ks, and even other markets. Like ironically, I'm in the digital advertising space, and ad prices are even 30% down. Like, just in general, is that number accurate? And like, how do you feel about that number as kind of like the one that's touted right now?
It is accurate number, unfortunately. Over the last 2 weeks in the economy, the stock market, we've seen the markets drop over 30% due to the global crisis of coronavirus, unfortunately. Part of it in the beginning was the battle between the Russians and Saudi Arabia over oil prices. So you had these two monster geopolitical events happening at the same time, the oil war and coronavirus, causing the stock markets to drop over 30%. Fortunately, the last 3 days, we've had a little bit of a bounce back in the stock markets, but I don't believe it's going to hold up. I still believe we're going to go back down a little bit further. The markets like to test these technical support levels. Now, the number 30%, it will affect all aspects of the economy. It will affect your digital marketing business, the restaurant business. Why is that? People see themselves losing money in the stock market. What are they going to do? They're going to stop going out and buying things. The consumers make up the majority of the U.S. economic system. Consumer power is what drives this country and the world. So if you have less money or you're losing money, what are you going to do? You're not going to go buy the new iPhone. You're not going to go out to eat. You're not going to buy a new appliance for your house. You might hold off on home renovations. And that's going to trickle down to the waitresses aren't making money, the contractors aren't making money. So everybody's business will trickle down.
Got it. Got it. And the other thing that I think people immediately go to is like their 401ks. So like I've been taught, and you've actually taught me this as well as our first financial mentors, our crazy dad and our amazing poppy, our grandfather, that we obviously can't touch our 401ks. But should we be thinking about how we contribute to them or the aggressiveness of our portfolio? Like how do we think about our 401k now in a down market?
Today, with the 401k, it really depends on where you are in your life. If you are a younger adult, you have time and you're going to continue to work for many years for your 401ks to recuperate any losses that you have suffered and make some money back over the next 20, 30, 40 years. If you're a person in the older generation who are maybe close to retiring or has retired and you are dependent on your 401k or IRA for income, it's a different conversation. People should not try not to take money out of their 401ks. You can take a loan. Most 401ks do provide you with a loan, but you do have to pay it back in X amount of days. There are loan provisions. So you are paying it back to yourself, but it is a taxable event and as ordinary income if you do not pay back that loan in time. Now, with the new stimulus package coming out, there may be parts of that say you can withdraw from a retirement plan or 401k without penalties. That's yet to be determined in concrete documents.
Got it. Got it. So before someone tries to, obviously they don't want to cash out their 401k. Maybe their own loan is the first option. What are some other options that you'd recommend? Is it a home equity loan? Is it a line of credit? Is there some other way for them to get money without touching, that 401k, especially if they're young and they want that to grow over time?
The first thing most people need to do is take a step back and say, what am I spending in a weekly basis, a monthly basis? Right now, what's going on, what's the biggest thing everybody's seen is the hoarding of these consumer products from the grocery stores, toilet paper, water, food, what have you.
Right.
If people are financially burdened because of the market drop off and they don't want to touch their 401ks, instead of hoarding all those products, shop week to week what you need. Because you might be buying products that you're not going to need for 6-8 months when this is all over. So
right.
If you own a home, you can apply for a home equity loan. And it's usually most people refinance at the same time, which is a good time to refinance due to what's happening to interest rates. But people have to keep in mind, if you lived in that home for 15, 20 years, what happens? You're starting a 30-year mortgage all over again.
Right.
If you've only been in the home for 5, 6, 7 years, it's really not that big of a difference. You're turning the clock back 5, 7 years, but you will generate some income that you can use to spend on everyday things, medicines or just bills that you have to pay, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. And you touched on it quickly a few minutes ago, but I do want to come back to it. So the older generation, these pre-retirees or people that just recently retired, they woke up and 30% of their savings was just missing. What should they be thinking about? What kind of mindset do you recommend? Or even like, what would you tell somebody, even if it was a friend or family or a potential client, around like what to do with your retirement right now, especially if you're in that, I'm not working anymore phase?
Okay. If you look at that generation, they have lived through 2001, 9/11, 2008, the stock market crash, and not that long ago, December of 2018, what happened? The stock market went down 20% in a month. That was over a year and a half ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Dude, people forget that. I've only thought about 2008. I haven't thought about any of the other ones.
Nobody thinks about 2001, 9/11. Nobody thinks about 1987, the tech crash.
Right.
the younger generation hasn't been around that long, but the older people have seen these events take place. And what happens? The 401ks or investment accounts, they'll go down 30, 40%, and over time come back up. Unfortunately, there are many people out there who don't have an advisor actively managing their account, saying, we need to reevaluate your personal situation. Do we need to take your 401k or IRA and make it more conservative, not as risky, because you are going to be dependent on this income for the next 15, 20, 30 years because you're no longer working. Now, there are people out there who say, no, I plan on leaving this money to my children, my grandchildren. I don't need to live. Then we have a different conversation, but
Mhm.
nobody wants to see their portfolios drop 30, 40%.
Right.
Investing, that is part of the game. But if you have an advisor who uses diversification in a portfolio and is actively managing it, meaning they're buying and selling based on what's going on in the economy worldwide, you're going to avoid those losses.
Got it. Got it. And then, so taking like another turn there, like talking about millennials, right? It's the popular segment, the popular group
Hmm.
everybody talks about. But I think people forget that how big that group really is. That's really anyone who right now is 24 to about 39.
Hmm.
Whether you consider yourself a millennial or not, that is the age range officially. So, what are the short term plans and the long term plans for millennials? And not just in relation to this crisis, like what should that group be doing regardless? Because I think there's two buckets to that group. There's the younger bucket, that 24 to 30, and then that 31 to 39. So, what would be your advice to to the millennial segment, both short term, long term, in terms of just savings and how they should be thinking about their future, the way that we just talked about retirees?
Unfortunately, the millennials today have the biggest issue that we've seen for generations. That is coming into the workforce with enormous student loans and not being able to afford a place to live on their own. Maybe they have to live with home with mom and dad or with family because of these enormous student loans. And what happens? You're just starting out a new job. You're not going to be making that much money where you can afford a place to live. And when it comes to millennials in the stock market, my first piece of advice is once they get a full-time job and they are eligible, is to start partaking in a retirement plan of some sort. If it's not through the business, you can do it individually. Um, and if your job does offer you one, partake in a 401k or 403b, which is usually used for teachers or professors.
Mm,
When it comes to investing, not only millennials, but people of all ages, you can't act irrationally. You have to stay the course, believe in your advisor is paying attention to the accounts. If you're doing yourself, you don't want to try and time the market. Nobody has that crystal ball that works. So you have to be able to go to bed at night and say, I'm comfortable with how my portfolio is set up as far as a risk tolerance. And I know it's going to have its ups and downs, but over time, I will have made some money in the markets for my
right.
future.
Hmm. Got
Um,
it.
so